half masks and stuff that I had done. And my uncle was so sweet. He said to Joel Mason, he's like, "Do you know Dick Smith?" Because I, studying Dick Smith. And
sure, of course.
He says, "Oh, Dick Smith, I know Dick Smith." He gets on the phone with him. He says, "I got a young man here. I want to send him over." So I got to meet Dick Smith this way.
How awesome is that?
Which is another long story, but I got to tell you, priceless. I got to get over. Dick was working on Spasms on Murray Avenue, and a great story that I want to come back to. But let me jump to Westwood. I'm a little kid, and I'm staring up at this poster of William Hurt upside down, and I'm getting ready to go in to see Altered States. And I have no idea what's coming at me, but I know that it's going to be a makeup jump because it's Dick Smith. And I heard talk about the air bladders and all that type of stuff. And once again, I think that's where I had already been doing masks, I'd already been doing stuff, but I lit on fire. And I remember that summer.
I remember your interest in that when I first met you. You were very big on Dick Smith and Altered States.
Oh, it was. I think it was the same feeling that a lot of people probably felt in Jurassic Park, where, but I felt it more towards a body in transformation.
Yeah.
Once again, some of these transformations never ended up anywhere, but to have air bladders going off and William Hurt, responding to his arm, and having the air bladders going off, it was. It signaled to little boys like me at the time, anything could happen.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. And so that movie was a great fulfillment of that concept. And then Rick Baker, to me, in my mind, shows up certainly before that, because we were following Rick in the magazines.
Of course.
And Rick had something that nobody had, because keep in mind, the industry was really about to come into its own. But Rick was a brilliant sculptor.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
like I had mentioned earlier.
Yeah. I had heard about Schlock, and I had heard about Octoman. I'd seen Schlock. But a Fangoria magazine, or one of the magazines of the day, came out with his sculptures in his home. And I'll never forget seeing the cleanliness and the beauty of the paint job on the Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Charles Laughton version. He had it on his wall. And looking at that sculpturally, as well as the other heads, there was just something right. You can go get somebody off the street right now, and you can have them look at a sculpture, and if a sculpture's going well, even if they don't know anything about movies, people can just tell if a sculpture is cool or not.
Yeah.
And we all knew, oh, this guy's got something special. By the time we get to The Howling, which is a picture of Rick low in the frame, and he's got this big werewolf head, we already know. We're already watching out for Rick Baker, because we know he's got the magic touch with the clay. All the forms are right. Everything's a fulfillment of what you would imagine a cool character to be. So he delivers on that. But I gotta say, Dick Smith and Rick I would follow habitually. And somehow John Chambers, I guess, wasn't doing as much work. I remember explaining to my mom, I have a very important meeting tonight, and the meeting is with me and Strother Martin tonight at 8. There's going to be a television show where a man turns into a snake. And I cannot be disturbed. And my mother was kind enough to know, okay, my son's a bit of an asshole, but we're gonna leave him alone during the screening of
Right. So that was Chambers.
That was Chambers.
Right. But didn't he also do the 1977 Island of Dr. Moreau with Michael York?
Which was
Burt
brilliant.
Lancaster?
Which was brilliant. If you're watching
shoulders
this,
above the one,
you gotta go look at the you gotta go look at the Lion Man. Brilliant makeup. But once again, it's funny because Dick Smith and Rick Baker kind of take over this time, because once again, Chambers isn't having the A-list projects as much anymore. I don't know what was going on, but at least in our meditation. And then for Bloodletting, Tom Savini shows up, right? And I gotta say, with Tom, Tom fit right in, because letting blood for a little kid doing blood gags, it was great, because Dick Smith had told us it was cool to figure out physically how to do it. And of course, there's a certain bloodlust that I don't think we like to talk about in our society, but I was doing blood gags like nobody's business. And Tom Savini was a great inspiration for the blood gags. But Baker was the one that showed us the path. Same thing with Dick Smith. The path to getting to a great effect. If you drop the ball in the sculpture, you weren't going to have anything. So once again, as a little kid, I think that's why I moved towards sculpture so much. And Now we get on to American Werewolf in London. There you have things that are, I remember the Life magazine came out, and they had a photo spread on Rick and the whole crew, and everybody covered in blood. And once again, at that time as little kids, we were just in heaven, man, waiting for movies like Altered States, waiting for movies like...
Well, I mean, even look at his work in King Kong.
Yeah.
You know, he did something very interesting in that, with the 3 different Kong heads, which allowed a far greater range of... You know, I always thought Jaws would have benefited.
Yeah.
From that, having 3 different heads. I don't mean...
That's a good point.
Not like they had 3 different sharks for shooting different angles, but because a shark's head dramatically changes when it goes into the attack mode.
Absolutely.
I always thought, and I know Jaws came before King Kong, so they might not have thought about that, but after seeing King Kong and what Baker did with the changing the different heads, I always thought that would have been very beneficial for Jaws, because then they would have had a far greater range of realism for the shark.
I couldn't agree more. Well, once again, hindsight is 20/20, but you're absolutely right. The Chang-o-heads in King Kong was an amazing movie. I just watched it last year, and there's some shots in there. Man, it's funny because I forgot how much time I had invested in my young man life thinking about the 40-foot Kong, thinking about Carlo Rambaldi working on the wiring of Rick's stuff, and the Chang-o-heads were great because there's one scene where I think it's after he's taken apart the train, and it's the full hardcore scream. Yeah. And it's just awesome because he's going through the streets just beating the shit out of stuff, and it's full scream.
Exactly,
And but I gotta say that also the magazines, to be able to see in the magazines that there were Chang-o-heads, once again it emphasized that there was a process, there was a science going on here.
Although I guess nowadays with the radio control mechanisms, that they could do all 3 heads in one now, going from a placid expression all the way to a full-on angry roar.
Yeah, they can do all kinds of stuff, but you know what? The Chang-o-head is still a viable.
Oh, of course,
it's still a viable thing for sure. And plus, I just love saying Chang-o-head. Back to the magazines, though, man. Fangoria, Cinemagic, Cinefantastique. These magazines, we pour over these things, and you know, I had seen King Kong, and I didn't even know that it was Rick Baker in the suit until later in life.
Oh, really?
And
because I remember when it came out that had been mentioned quite a bit.
Yeah, and gosh, man, there's so much to like about that movie. Baker's performance was brilliant.
Well, that pretty much is what makes the film.
Well, his eyes peeking through and him smiling at Dwan. That's the stuff that you go for. That's why you go to a King Kong movie, and it delivered on that. But then we had spurting blood and the Kong dealing with the Twin Towers. That movie, I think I've heard a lot of people say how beloved that movie is. I love that movie. Plus the music is amazing. Jeff Bridges is a great hero.
Oh, he's great in anything he does.
Bridges was great.
Yeah, I'm a huge Jeff Bridges fan.
I just saw Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. Why did he die? What happened? What the hell was going on there?
Well, what's his name? George Kennedy beat the crap out of him and messed his brain up.
Okay.
Caused brain damage.
Okay.
Yeah, it probably had like a subdural hematoma or something.
I got
or
it.
Brain bleed.
I mean, it's great that they don't explain it.
Yeah, no, it was just after George Kennedy kicked the crap out of him.
I got it.
That he died, yeah.
I got it. Eastwood was great in that, repairing his own arm.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Eastwood takes the belt off and puts it on the tree. Great. I was watching Every Which Way You Can the other day, too.
Another great one.
It's funny because it caught me. It was on the regular TV.
Teaming him up against William Smith was brilliant.
Yeah.
Just a brilliant, and the idea that they weren't enemies.
Yeah.
That they were actually friends worked out really well too.
Was a nice change of pace. Philo Beta. That's it.
Yeah.
And also Ruth Gordon.
Ruth Gordon.
She's in there busting everybody's chops, which you can't really go wrong with that.
Right. Exactly.
But
just a fun movie. Both of those were just really fun movies.
Yeah. Anyways,
but yeah, Jeff Bridges. I loved his version of True Grit. That was a phenomenal movie.
You know what? I didn't see the whole movie, but I did see the part where he starts to ride at the end, and I think I got it without seeing the whole movie, which is, you think of him one way. I shouldn't even speculate on this, but when he rides to save the girl's life, boy, you're rooting for a cowboy hero, aren't you?
Yeah, well, in the whole movie, he actually comes across very strong.
I'll bet.
Yeah, he never comes across as like a bumbling joke, even though he's a drunkard and, you know. But he's not clownish or buffoonish with it, because when he first takes her contract, he's serious about setting out after the guy she wants him to get. His performance is very different than John Wayne's for a couple reasons. They were basing it much closer to the source material, the novel, in their version, and then John Wayne's version, which is also a great film. You had to make a film geared towards John Wayne's audience, because John Wayne, like Clint Eastwood, was a commodity.
Fill your hands, you sons of bitches.
Yeah, whereas Jeff Bridges, their material, they were freer. You know, they had more a wider range to play. You know, so they're both great films. And but I really liked the Jeff Bridges version, especially the little girl, who I don't know if you saw the scene.
Haley Seinfeld. She's a singer.
Yeah. Well, she in this film, you know, she plays the daughter of the man that got killed.
Yeah.
And so there's a scene where she's talking business with this man her father used to do business with. And she comes across like she really knows what she's talking about. She doesn't look like a little girl reciting lines that were written for her.